everyone. Good morning and welcome to Morning Motivation. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I pray that you all are having a blessed week and happy Thursday. I hope that everything that you have been working on this week has been going well. Your projects you're being productive. You're knocking out those tasks on your to-do list. But thank you once again for watching this morning. And today we want to continue the conversation about dealing with anxiety. And, I wanted to stay on this topic just a little bit longer, just because I know that anxiety has had a major impact on my life. And I know that me addressing it helped make a difference. So today we're going to talk about a few more ways to address anxiety and overcome anxiety. And so the first thing that we want to talk about today is that admitting that there is a problem, that there is a situation. When you think about AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step to recovery is admitting that there is a problem and that a problem is that it exists. So with anxiety, admitting that there's a problem and addressing what is going on with the anxiety. Only when you do that once you admit that there's an issue, can you begin to work on it or address the problem. And so I know for myself, I would have to, anxiety comes in different forms. And so me addressing that I have a problem with the anxiety it enables me to take a look at it, and it enables me to take a look at what might be causing it, or also how I can minimize the anxiety. For example, one thing that brings me anxiety is when I go out and I'm in large crowds, especially like in seating venues where I am particular about where I sit. And so I can't sit like in the middle. So if the row is like, I don't know, 10 seats wide, I can't sit in like seats 5 and 6. I like to sit on the end. That way I can have, I can get up when I want to get up, or if it just makes me feel more comfortable, more safe than being confined, because those inner seats, what they do is they make me feel like I'm confined and I'm trapped and I can't get out either direction. It's kind of weird. It's almost just like on an airplane, where even though I'm in an airplane, I'm in the cabin of the airplane, I still like to feel like I have some sense of, it goes back to that control issue, which we talked about before. But even in the airplane, I like to sit on the aisle rather than up against the window, because when I'm up against the window, I feel like I can't just get up and move around like I want to. So the first thing I have to do with those situations is admit, hey, there's a problem when I go into these spaces. Hey, Kathy, good morning. How you doing? But when I go into these spaces, and so what I will do is I admit that there's a problem. Hey, I have anxiety when it comes to sitting in venues. But what I will do is I will look at what is it that I can do to minimize the situation. And most times where there's a seating chart in a venue, I will go in and I'll be very specific about which seats I want to sit in. And I'll pick the seats so that I know that I will feel most comfortable. But it all begins with admitting that there's a problem, because if you don't admit that there's a problem, then you're not going to address it. When you admit that there's a problem, then you can begin to look at it and you can begin the healing process by trying to figure out what is it that is the root cause of that. Because in all problems, you want to get to the root cause. So you get to the root cause and you can start to peel back the onion and look at the different layers of what's affecting or what's causing that, so that ultimately you can minimize the anxiety, or you can even overcome the anxiety. But if you don't admit that there's a problem, then you're not going to know how to get started with overcoming that. So the next thing is this in overcoming anxiety is stop self-medicating in unhealthy fashions. We talked briefly about this the other day, but what we do is when we have any situation, we have unhealthy habits that we that we introduce into our life to help us deal with stress. And those unhealthy habits can be so many different things. It can be medication, it could be drugs, it could be alcohol, it could be pornography, it could be overeating, it can be all these things that we introduce into our life that are very unhealthy for us. And we're basically trying to self medicate in order to reduce the anxiety. And so, trying to self medicate in an unhealthy fashion is not a good thing. And so, it goes back to admitting that there's an issue so that you can address it. And then looking at that issue and looking at the things that you're trying to do to alleviate that anxiety, and taking a look at, are they healthy or are they unhealthy? And so we talked about before, some healthy ways is getting out there and doing some exercise, also doing some walking, some meditation we talked about yesterday. But then also we have to look at those unhealthy ways. So if you say to yourself, you know what, when I feel anxious, I go and I take a drink, or when I feel anxious, I go and I overeat or something like that. Well, those unhealthy ways are things that we have to address so that we can begin to eliminate that from the situations. The next thing is that we need to be very intentional about what goes into our mind when we go to the scripture. Philippians 4:8, it says this. It says that, finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. And so you have to um, look at this from a perspective of, what is it that you are letting into your mind. And it can come in several different fashions: what you are watching on TV, what you're listening to on the radio, what you're going to on the internet. What is it that you're letting into your mind? Because these things can cause anxiety. These can contribute to the anxiety that you have. Here's an example. Before I go to sleep each night, I make sure that what I watch on TV is something that's very, very lighthearted, very humorous, something that is not too heavy. Definitely not anything scary or traumatic or things like that, because what it will do is it will affect my sleep, and it will cause anxiety before I'm going to sleep. So, who wants to go to sleep when you're already in a state of being anxious? But you want to be relaxed. Um, you want to have some, your thoughts are pure. So when you go to sleep, you don't go to sleep with this anxiety holding on to you. And, I talked about not watching scary things. One thing that I know for myself, when I was younger, I used to like kind of Freddy Krueger, scary movies. But then as I got older, I started thinking I didn't want that scariness and that horror stuff in my spirit. And so you have to guard your spirit and be very mindful of what you let into your spirit, because those things can have a negative effect on you. I'll give you a great example. When I was at, I would say, one of the lowest points of dealing with my depression here within the last couple years, what I was watching is I was watching shows like Rescue 911 and ER, things like that, that dealt with all these trauma and all these medical situations. And what it started affecting me, because I noticed that after I watched these shows, I was felt more anxious. I felt more depressed because I was watching these situations and I was putting myself into these situations. And what it ultimately spoke to me, or what I realized after, one, admitting that there was a problem and looking at what was causing the problem, is that when I watched the show like Rescue 911 and this car accident occurred, I would put myself into that and think to myself, how would I react if I was in that situation? How would I deal with that situation if my family member, relative was in that situation? I immersed myself into the show, and that was causing unnecessary stress and unnecessary anxiety. And so as I removed myself from watching those type of TV shows, I found a complete difference. For example, something that to me was very lighthearted for me to watch before I went to bed, with stuff like the Big Bang Theory, or even Frasier, or even, it's funny as it might sound, is Star Trek. Um, Even though Star Trek, they might be dealing with situations, they might be dealing with shooting each other with lasers and things like that. I did not mentally put myself in those pictures, because I'm like, okay, I'm not in outer space. I'm not fighting aliens. I'm not getting shot with lasers. So it was more lighthearted. I couldn't put myself into that situation. So for me, I had to stop watching shows where I was putting myself in those situations and knew in real life that could actually happen to me. And it made a huge difference on my mental health, because I would sit there for hours binge watching these Rescue 911 shows. And then I come out just looking, just feeling so down, feeling so much more depressed. And then finally, as I went back and analyzed it, I was like, this is what's doing this. Before I watch the show, I'm feeling up. Then after watching the show, I'm feeling down. But you have to make those conscious decisions about what you are bringing into your mind, what you're watching, what you're listening to. Yes, yes. Good morning. Good morning. I see a good stuff, Lee. Also, toxic reality shows. Absolutely. These things, toxic. That's the word. Bringing these toxic things into your mind, into your spirit. They're not healthy. So what I would challenge you all to do is this: to do a self-evaluation and look at the things that you're watching, look at the things that you're being exposed to. Here's something that happened to me recently. We went to see that a couple months ago. We went to see the Nicolas Cage movie, and we got there late, and so we missed some of the previews. But then before the movie started, they had some horror movies that were the previews, and so we had to sit there, and basically our spirit had to absorb these horrible images coming on the screen, and we didn't have a choice. I was very upset at the movie theater because there's no warning. And we came in there late enough that we should have missed all the previews, but we were exposed to these things. Our spirits were exposed to these horrific views and sounds, just because the movie theater wanted to sell a movie. But we have to be mindful of this. Um, be mindful of what you are allowing into your spirit. Once again, it's the things that you watch, like this. Hey, Pastor Victoria, good morning. We have to be mindful of this toxic, like you said, toxic reality shows, because these things will make a difference on our spirit. They make a difference in our life, and you can get caught up in those things. And so be very mindful of what you put into your spirit, the shows that you watch, the movies that you watch, also the music that you listen to, the books that you read. When you're searching the internet, Facebook is going to show you so many different things. Instagram is showing you so many different things that, what, you can accidentally just get caught on something, and then it just hooks you, and then you just keep looking and looking and looking and reading more and more and more, and it's bad for your spirit. So be very mindful of that, because what's happening now on the internet is you're scrolling, everybody's trying to stop the scroll, stop you from scrolling so they can get your attention. And some people have pure intentions. You have Christian content out there, which is amazing, and it feeds your spirit. But there's so much more content out there that is not good for your spirit. Amen. And so let's see. Yes, Pastor Victor, my former addiction, those reality shows had me showing. Yes, absolutely. Those reality shows, you know what? I've never been a fan of them, but I have gotten caught up in a couple of them, because it's entertaining. You're like, oh wow, cool, and you get addicted to it. And you know, just be mindful of that. Once again, mindful of what you put into your spirit. And you have to also, in your household, be mindful of what your household is letting in, what your children are watching. Absolutely, what your children are watching, even your spouse. What is your spouse watching? What's coming into their spirit? Because what's coming into their spirit is going to affect your household. It's going to affect you, because you're going to have these conversations and you're going to be dealing with them. And then instead of them dealing with things through a Christian or a Christ-like mindset. They're dealing because they just watched this reality TV show, or they just watched this horror show, or they just um, stop scrolling through the internet reading all these bad articles. So once again, a couple things to address here. Just to recap, admit that there's a problem. The first thing to dealing with your anxiety is admit that there's a problem so that you can address the root cause and you can move forward. Next thing is stop self-medicating in unhealthy ways. Take a look, do a self-evaluation, a self-exam of what is going on in your life with your anxiety and how you are addressing it, and get rid of those unhealthy ways. And then the final thing is be intentional about what goes into your mind. Cut off those things, turn the TV off, turn the internet off, turn those things off so that the only thing that you are receiving is what you want to receive, and what the things that you want to receive should be Christ-like. So be very mindful of those, because you can easily get caught up. Let's see, truth. What goes in will come out. Absolutely. What you take in is going to come out in some fashion. If you're taking in negative things, then negative things are going to come out. What's that saying? Junk in equals junk out. It's like when you eat. If you eat a lot of junk food, junk comes out. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. Good morning, everyone. I see you. My sister, Kathy, thank you for joining us. Pastor Victoria, always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And Facebook user, I see you. Not sure who that is. LinkedIn user. Okay, LinkedIn user. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to let you know that we have some things coming up that we're very excited about. And the first thing is this: as you notice, this week we have been talking about anxiety all week long. Well, beginning next week, we've made a schedule for the rest of the year. We are sticking with one topic per week. That way we can do a deeper dive. We can get the most out of that topic so that we can provide better content, better information. So beginning next week, we are going to start dealing with one topic each week, as well as we are going to bring in some special guests to do interviews, and those segments will be aired. The lives will be at night at 6 p.m. We're not sure which days yet, but we will definitely, they're all there for the replay. Let's see, my sister, thank you so much for your message. I love you. Yes, I love you too. But next week, we are going to start dealing with one topic for the entire week. And we're super excited about that we can dive into content in a deeper fashion. So thank you all for watching. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to comment. We appreciate your comments. We appreciate the love. We appreciate your prayers. Pastor Victoria, can't wait. Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Be ready, because I'm sending you a link where you can sign up to be a speaker. So get ready. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I pray that you all have a blessed day, and God willing, we will see you back here again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Take care and talk to you soon.